and she lived on her own, and she slaved on her own, and she skivvied on her own. She'd 2 little boys and 2 little girls, yet she lived all alone with her husband. Well, her husband, he was a hunk of a man, he was a chunk of a man, he was a drunk of a man. He was a hunk of a skunk of a drunk of a man, such a boozy, bruising bully of a husband. Well, her husband come home drunk each night, and he'd belt her black and he'd belt her white, thrash her to within an inch of her life, and then he'd snore like a pig, would her husband. One night she gathered her tears all around her shame, and she covered up the bruising and she cried with the pain. No, you'll not do that ever again, for I can't live any more with a drunken husband. And while her husband lay asleep in the bed, oh, the strangest thought came into her head. And she took up the needle and she sought out the thread, and she went straight into her sleeping husband. Well, she set to work with a girlish thrill and a woman's eye and a seamstress skill. She bibbed and tucked with an iron will, and she stitched all around her sleeping husband. Oh, the top sheets and the bottom sheet too, and the blanket stitched to the mattress through. She bibbed and tucked the whole night through, and waited for the dawn and her husband. Well, her husband woke with a pain in his head, and he found he could not move in the bed. Sweet Christ in heaven, have I lost me legs? Now she just sat and smiled at her husband. In her hand she held the frying pan, and with a flutter of her heart she flew at him. And he could not move, and he cried, God damn, now don't you swear at me drunken husband. Well, she belt in black and she belt in blue, with the frying pan and the colander too, and the rolling pin just a stroke or two, such a boozing, bruising and repenting husband. Now if you will come home drunk anymore, I'll stitch you in and I'll thrash you more, and I'll pack me bags and I'll be gone, for I can't live anymore with a drunken husband. Now isn't it true what a wife can do, with a rolling pin and a stitch or two? Now he's sobered up and his boozing is through, and she don't live anymore with a drunken husband. I heard Emily Slade sing it in a folk club when I was about 14 or 15, thought, oh, that's a really good song, and sort of forgot about it and never heard it again. And then somebody lent me a Christy Moore album, and there it was, and it just sort of reminded me of this amazing story, this terrible thing of revenge. And I don't usually have very many happy songs, so it counts as a happy song, I think, you know, a tale of revenge at least, and put it in the set, and it seems to have stuck there, and put it on the album, which I wasn't sure about at first, if I'm honest. I kind of thought it was more of a
performance track, but I'm really glad that I did, because, you know, you guys asked for it, and it's been one of those ones that people have said, oh, it was really cool to hear it from a female perspective, because its most famous versions are blokes singing it. So many women of that era, and what Mike Waterson wrote about, would have put up with that for the rest of their lives. The fact she stitches them in is just amazing, brilliant.
You seem very confident on stage to develop.
It's like a swan on the water. Underneath, I'm going, ah!
Me new lad's a labourer, he works with the stone, and he shows me no affection unless we're on our own. I asked me loving labourer, make an honest maid of me, but by the morning he had gone, now he's never to be seen. He's never to be seen, oh, he's never to be seen. And by the morning he had gone, now he's never to be seen.
No, I'm always horrifically nervous. If I've got a gig in the evening, it will start just after lunchtime. I'll start getting the butterfly eyes, and on the way there I'm going, oh God, why am I doing this? Why do I do this to myself? I don't want to do this. What if no one comes? What if I'm rubbish? And just every possible scenario is going through my mind, and it isn't till I get on stage that I wouldn't even say I relax, but I kind of, you know, go into gig mode, or I like to think that's what I hope happens each time I step out on stage. I like to think that I'm never so sure of myself that I'd go out and be confident and not care what people think. I'm always striving to make sure people enjoy it and make sure that it's good. I did have one situation in a club in Durham. The chairs were arranged down either side of this long room, and no one sat in the middle. There was just 6 blokes on one side, 6 blokes on the other, and me, well, I must have been even younger actually. I bet I was only 17, 18, and me standing there singing all these raucous songs, and it really was this moment of, don't think this is the right thing to do in this environment.
She lives in places you cannot follow, and she'll wait for you there.
I play guitar to suit songs that a voice could carry, that are stories. And I think a whole set of unaccompanied stuff, you know, for an hour and a half would probably bore people to death. So I do try to kind of put in a bit of guitar, a bit of concertina, but never ever compromising the vocal delivery and the story. You know, it's always the compliment, never to show that I've learned a new riff or that I can finally play bar chords or anything like that. Well, back in September, really, 2011, we were watching the riots unfold on our TV screens across the world. It was just inspiring, and I wrote for the dead men.
Out on the streets, their banners held high, for love and for peace, they stand up to fight. But for death or for glory, we're forced to decide. A moment in history or just a passing of time.
It took me so long to write because the first draft was just angry, too angry, you know, verging on sweary, which isn't really me at all. And then sort of the rewrite was too metaphorical. You couldn't tell what the echo was going on about in amongst all the poetry and mixed meanings. I was really pleased when it went up on YouTube and people saw it and they were responding to it saying, we feel the same.
Billy Bragg tweeted it.
It's the greatest moment of my life ever. What more of a, you know, a nod do you need than Billy Bragg saying your protest song is alright?